There's a land, so I've been told. Every street is paved with gold, and it's just across the borderline. And when it's time to take your turn, here's a lesson you must learn. You could lose more than you ever hope to find. And when you reach the broken promised land, every dream slips through your hand, then you'll know it's too late to change your mind. 'Cause you paid the price to come this far, just to wind up where you are, and you're still just across the borderline. Up and down the Rio Grande, 1,000 footprints in the sand reveal a secret no one can define. The river flows on like a breath in between our life and death. Tell me who the next to cross the borderline. And when you reach the broken promised land, every dream slips through your hand, then you'll know it's too late to change your mind. 'Cause you paid the price to come this far, just to wind up where you are, and you're still just across the borderline.
This is impressive. People think that I'm taller than I seem. Well, welcome everybody for this last day of this marathon. You know, it's always, I know that 4 days is always quite a big event, but we are also building some very strong interactions in 4 days, but it's also a little bit tiring. I must say that on the 4th day, I think that I will welcome the weekend. So welcome to this day, which will be about interoperability. I didn't want to say standardization because we need to figure out what we want. Do we want formal standardization, or do we expect to have harmonized guidelines for the practitioners? It has to be very, very clearly said. Standardization is a little bit tricky as a word because it's understood in a different way. You know, when we speak about standard operating procedures, people think that it's a standard. It's not a standard. It's very often harmonized guidelines. And the word standard is a little bit strange. In English, standards, it means a little bit everything. You know, they speak about norms, written standard, reference materials is a standard, whatever. So we need to be clear on what we are speaking about. What I will just say as a short speech, introductory speech, is to explain you my positioning regarding my role as research programming officer. My function and my duty is to ensure that I'm writing topics which are supporting your research needs, including pre- and co-normative research needs. Pre- and co-normative research needs in the security area, knowing that in some instances, there are some classified components, for example, in the Siberian area. Classified components cannot be tackled by formal standards. So where are we? You know, so we cannot develop an EN standard or ISO standard with classified components. Do we have a solution that I can convey to my colleagues? Not yet. I think it's so. Maybe there are some general rules that can be adopted as a standard, not classified, with some classified annexes. But how to do it? Is it something that has to be done by the Commission through, for example, a decision, classified decision? Has it to be done with the member states? This is for me a little bit obscure, and I'm discussing this since 10 years, you know, without finding a solution. We have formal actors. We have CENELEC, ISO, technical committee. This is clear for you. They're leading to discussions that will issue standards at the end of the day, which are not binding by law. It's voluntary agreement. We are clear with that. The European Commission have different DGs, delivering policies which are binding, most of them binding by law, that is transposed into national law with the implementation. When we are actually asking, some DGs are doing that, I did that in my career, writing terms of reference for standards. For example, I did that when I was working for the water policy sector, related to detection limits, quality control of water analysis. Well, we write terms of reference, we write a mandate to send, which is coordinated by DG GROW, which was formerly DG Enterprise. And DG GROW has a contact with CENELEC and will contract CENELEC to develop the standards according to a mandate issued by a policy DG. This is very clear. It's a formal process which is online and ongoing. And it is part of a standardization strategy, which has been adopted by the Commission, on the basis of which every year policy DGs are called for new needs expressed by different sectors. So DG Home, DG Environment, well, all the DGs are contacted by DG GROW asking, do you have any needs this next year regarding mandates? I speak here about mandates for standards. In the security sector, DG Home, we systematically say no because of the reason of the classified matters. And also, I will come back to this because there are another issue, which is insecurity, contrarily to environment, for example, policy, which are EU laws. We do not have an EU law on security. for a simple reason. We are dealing here with a regalian character. This is under the sovereignty of the states. So we are issuing recommendations, we are funding research, but recommendations which are not binding because of this sovereign character. So we don't have EU law on even civil protection. The Union Civil Protection Mechanism is not binding by law, it's a coordination mechanism. It's not like, for example, the Water Framework Directive or the Critical Resilient Directive, which is transposed in a national law. So I wanted to clarify that. So we are already in a situation, in a limbo, which is sometimes a little bit difficult because we cannot, as DG Home, participate in this standardization strategy because it will not be accepted by all member states. So we are a little bit in a difficult position. We have informal actors, you are part of them, you know, the research community, developing a lot of research outputs. Some of them are leading to harmonized guidelines, harmonized protocols, harmonized tools, and you will be, there are several deliverables that will become SEN workshop agreement. It's fine, you know, it's kind of crystallizing knowledge. But these SEN workshop agreements are developed in a way which is absolutely not coordinated. So everybody can decide, I will have a SEN workshop agreement, without really supposedly checking what has been done, but not necessarily. It is done with Senelec, fine, okay, it's adopted, but it gives the impression that we have done something, with a false impression that SEN workshop agreements are pre-standard, which is totally wrong. A SEN workshop agreement is a crystallized knowledge that is, in fact, published, well, the main known, which is not binding, and it's not necessarily pre-standard. I don't say that it cannot be a pre-standard. I say that the nature is not a pre-standard. What is missing now? Well, so there is a problem of coordination, trying to ensure that the pieces of the puzzles are put together, and there is this false impression that it's pre-standard. Well, the DG GROW has issued a memo on the role of research in developing standard items, saying that, well, research projects are welcome. I want to put the things very, very bluntly on the table. You know, I like CERIS is here for that. We are to speaking card on the table. So now we have a paper saying research be welcome to develop SEN workshop agreement, with obviously the support of Senelec. Why should they say the contrary? So we are basically engaging research to develop SEN workshop agreement with no coordination mechanism. What might happen in the future if we don't have a kind of filter? We will have hundreds of SEN workshop agreements that will be floating around, and nobody will find its way anymore, you know, on what to follow. If we don't have at a certain point a decision, say, okay, this one is prone to send AEN standard or ISO standards. Some projects are right away developing ISO standards. It has happened. So, fine, okay, this is all right. But so my consideration here regarding this risk, and I'm speaking here as a research programming officer with a responsibility for the next years to say we will put this money in our work program to support pre or co-normative research. Pre-normative research when there are items to be developed, co-normative research when there are items already developed that needs to be validated in demonstration prior to become a standard. We are clear with that. We will not be developing, it is related to research. So I just come back to my different point, and then I will pass the floor. I will stop because it will be something that I will be very, very curious to hear you about speaking all the morning about this, I suppose. So first of all, first point, there is no coordination with policy DGs. We are possibly mandating standards, nor, I know that Jean don't like the word, nor practitioners, the users. There is no filter mechanism that says, do you need this this send workshop agreement? Do you need that we are developing an harmonized guideline to support your policy or to support your need as first responder? Nothing is done. It's done on a ad hoc basis, but there is no institutional, no strong mechanism to do it. So we can do what we want. And at the end of the day, just put something on paper, published, and say to the practitioners, use it, you know. You have not been consulted? Wow. Do you need to be consulted for that? I'm a little bit provocative here, but it's a little bit what happens. So this coordination mechanism, I try, and I think, I hope you will make it, because I will follow that from distance. The peers strategy, peers project, who are represented today, I'm still hoping that you will develop this kind of mechanism. That is, we are willing to develop send workshop agreement through research, but first, the first step is asking policy DGs and practitioners, are you okay with this? Do you agree? Let's go. And then developing the send workshop agreement involving the users. Are you okay with this? We will be consulting you regarding the development of the send agreement, and we will invite you to validate the send workshop agreement at the end. So there is the upstream part and the downstream part, which is, are you okay with the result? Do you agree with that? And if we do that, the send workshop agreement becomes very strong. And it could be then become a pre-standard. This I would agree. When I say pre-standard, I mean being recognized of utility by policy DGs and practitioners. And then in this case, we may say to the policy DGs, are you okay to issue a mandate? Are you okay with this? And if it's the case, then the policy DG will write terms of reference and send this to SEND and ask for a standard development. Then it's a process. It's my naive thinking. It's my naive thinking, but I'm here today to listen if this is too naive or might become something, well, possible. So again, no coordination of send workshop agreement development. This false impression that are pre-standard, I think we have to recognize that. Security area, I repeat again, it's a special sector. There are no EU binding law. We need to look at possibility of research of classified character. So now, today, what I would like to hear from you, and with the panels that we'll have, is what should I do in the next years? You know, because we have, since 10 years, tried to have gap analysis. Since the M487 mandate, when I started my job in this program, I got this hot potato, you know, the M487 report, schluck, on my table. What do we do? My boss said, what do we do with this? It was a shopping list of more than 100 needs expressed mainly by academics. What can I do with this? So my first reflex was to send this report to the policy DGs. And I say, okay, what do you think? Imagine DG Home, DG Eco, DG Environment, with eyes like that, not knowing at all what we were speaking about, and it resulted into, from 100 or more maybe, to 3 or 4 items that were considered in research, but through the Joint Research Center, on CBRN mainly, but not in civil protection. DG Eco did not want. They say, no, we are not yet ready. So we, in our program, funded projects, resistant, there was a Stair Force security strategy, peers, maybe I'm forgetting. You know, we are progressing, but we are not yet in the situation where we are this so-called mechanism, which should become institutional. If we don't do that, in 10 years, we will still be discussing about this. It will not still not be recognized by the decision makers. So my job is now to say, well, we are at the crossroad. We will be writing the work program 2025, then 26, 27, and we will be preparing the 10th framework program, the next MFF. We are a small program. We don't have too much budget for that. Should I put biscuits in pre-contaminative research, with the hopes that we will have this, at least for our sector in security, this strong mechanism consulting policy DGs and practitioners. Can we do it? If this morning at 12:30 you can convince me that we can do it, then I will say to my colleagues, do put this biscuit, yes, continue. If you don't convince me, I will say, get rid of that. Because the standardization world is so big, so uncontrolled, so uncoordinated, that we cannot afford to put 20 million euros per year on pre-contaminative. I want to be very, very, very strong on that. So this is your job to give me very, very strong incentives to, we'll never have the big budget like that, but at least to continue this work. I'm sorry if I'm just freezing a little bit the discussion, but it's my I would say, my mood of today. And with this, I would like to invite Beatrice to moderate the overall session. I will be sitting at the back of the room and listen carefully. And I welcome also Bill. Billy, you are probably in line, and you are supposed to be the rapporteur. So it means that rapporteur, it will be very delicate for this morning because it will be quite sportive discussions. Then you need to take notes and to write me a small report, which I will be able to use for my hierarchy. Have a very nice session today.
Thank you, Philippe, for your welcome address. And wow, thank you for all of you for being here. It's still the very end of this annual event, and you're still here. So I'm very pleased to see the room, which is quite busy. Well, I would say that just to introduce this session today, Philippe already copied a lot of words I would say to you, but I would just complement his words, maybe, by adding some initial remarks about peers, because during the previous days of this event, I heard many, many times a lot of words that are recurring and that are part of the work that peers is trying to approach. Fragmentation of data and governance, interoperability, preparedness, response, practitioners, first responders. What we are going to do, and we are trying to do our best in peers, is precisely to set up a governance mechanism that puts together the right people at the right time in the right place. Because, as said by Philippe before, standardization is quite a complicated topic, and most importantly, if applied to security, because they are the member states who have the mandate to rule. And so, if we don't have the right people involved in standardization, then things get even more complicated. And this is what we want to do with peers. We want to bring together the right people, the policymakers, the standardization bodies, the practitioners. At the very beginning of the project, we were supposed to work in all the crisis management process. But we realized after 1 year of the work of the project, and thank you also to Philippe that contributed to the discussion with us, that it was quite a complex arena to work in. And so we decided to focus only on CBRNE because, again, CBRNE is quite a complex issue as well. So I think that we need to do a step-by-step approach. We are not expected and don't want, indeed, to get you with a solution because we need time, we need discussion, but to have discussion, we need the people. And so, please, I want to invite you all to contribute to the discussion today because we would like to have panel sessions that foster the discussion with you. We want to give you evidence about the work that we've been done so far and the ambition, the mission we want to go for, but we need to have you on board. And so without any further ado, I would like to invite the first panel today, and Patricia Compard to moderate the first panel, which is linking technical solutions to standards. Just a couple of words for Patricia to introduce her. So Patricia has in excess of 33 years experienced policy commissioner for the French Ministry of Interior. She worked for a long time in the intelligence business for the French government and NATO. And then she was also responsible for the IT governance of French national security forces. Patricia joined the French government National Crisis Center in 2013 and gradually became involved as an expert in crisis management in international and European standardization activities. She was elected chair of CENTIC 391, Societal and Citizen Security in 2016, and re-elected since. This European standardization body has in its scope many of the activities of practitioners and policymakers of disaster risk management and CBRNE. And Patricia is also a CERIS expert group member for the European Commission. So I'm very pleased to ask her to moderate this session today and invite the panelists to join. Please, 45 minutes for you to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I may welcome my panelists already. We have Professor Keith Jones, Tom Flynn, and Salvatore Corrao. So our topic now is linking technical solutions to standards. So I will give the floor to each of you, but first I just want to say a few words. We will address the standardization issue in general during the last roundtable, which is issuing recommendations to policymakers. But now we are focusing on the topic linking technical solutions to standards. First thing I want to say is just a few sentences of basic things. What are standards? Standards are developed by the business to support their business. This is basics. And if you want standards, well, you just should join standardization bodies and develop standards. It is as simple as that. I know that lots of people think it's very complicated, it takes long. It is not at all. I will address this later on, but now we are going to deal with how we link standards with technical solutions. So we will have three presentations now, and I would like to be able to answer these two questions at the end while we're answering everybody's questions after everybody presents their views and their project. And we should ask ourselves, are technical solutions we have linked or not to effective standards? And if not, does it harm? And what could we do to improve or to the use or the development of the standards we would need to support the uptake and the use of technical solutions, and what Philip called interoperability? Because as you understand, if we develop European standards, it's not just for the purpose of being able to be coordinated and work all together when it is requested. It is just what Europe is all about, being all stronger together. When we develop the common tools, common detection, assessment, interoperability of data systems, we build a very strong resilience. We build something that makes everybody stronger on their everyday business, even at the local level. So these are the stakes. Making something very clever, cheaper, safer, quicker, for the needs of the European public, who is exposed to major threats and who will be much more exposed to these threats in the future. We'll have to be able to raise our capabilities, raise our level of coordination, and raise our capability responses with more and more work and less budget. So how about that? We have to develop innovation, coordination, and we will be using standards because we don't have any way around. So I will give the floor first to our first panelist, who is Professor Keith Jones. Professor Jones is a professor of facilities management at the Anglia Ruskin University in the UK. And his expertise covers a wide range of built environment and management issues, including performance-based built asset management and the impact of climate change and earthquake events on the vulnerability, resilience, and adaptive capacity of business organizations and local communities. Professor Jones was previously head of School of Engineering and Built Environment, and he's a member of the ISO committees developing a set of facilities management and resilience standards. Professor Jones was a coordinator of the H2020 LikeFact project and the impact leader for the H2020 Turnkey project. Professor Jones is currently working on the Horizon Europe Mediate project. Professor Jones, the floor is yours.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Philippe, I could spend the next 45 minutes discussing your opening statements, but maybe that's not the best way of using my time. We can do that at lunch, but thank you. So I acknowledge a lot of what Philippe has said as the situation that we find ourselves in. Yes, to a lot of people, standards are a complicated issue. They are to some people quite a scary space to be in. But from where I stand, not wearing my hat as an academic, although I am and have been for the best part of 30 years, a research professor, I'm also a practitioner. I'm a facilities manager, and I am a senior member of my professional body. And so I come to this discussion wearing that hat. Because the one thing that we mustn't lose sight of when thinking about standards is it's that international standards influence business organizations on the ground. They don't read my research reports. They don't read papers. They look to collective wisdom. And standards are supposedly just that. They are the distilled knowledge globally about a subject or a topic. Now, ISOs are global. Then we have CEN, European, and of course then we have national standards. And they all work together to create a set of knowledge that actually should be useful to industry. So they are not generated by academics. They're not generated by policy. They're generated by a need of a profession or industry on the ground. They're based on expert opinion, but not expert opinion from a country or from a region, but globally. And coordinating global experts is difficult. And that is a problem, and I will come back to that at the end. They're developed through negotiation and discussion by a series of technical committees, and the idea is that we will try to reach consensus. And the consensus represents the state of the art, not an academic state of the art, but a practical state of the art. What knowledge has been tested globally and is accepted globally? That's what we're trying to get to. And there are different types, yeah. There are rules, there are management standards where if you say you're going to abide by them, you are audited. But the most useful ones, I think, are the technical standards. So these explore a subject and they put together information that is perceived as useful. If you, as an organisation, find yourself in this position, here is a document that tells you not what to do, because they are not mandated, you're quite right, but this is what other people in your field think is the best approach to the problem that you're facing. Now, I'm involved in two. I'm involved in the suite looking at resilience, and I'm involved in a suite looking at facilities management. I'm going to leave the resilience one because it's actually the facilities management one that I think is the most interesting from my perspective today. So facilities management, for those of you who don't know, it's an organisational function which integrates people, place and process within the built environment. COVID put a huge challenge on facilities managers. They suddenly started to realise that they hadn't thought about resilience. And so they asked the question about how can we become more resilient? Facilities management has over 65,000 companies globally, most of them quite large. It operates across 41 countries. It employs 2.5 million people, and it has a global turnover of $1.15 trillion a year. That's my profession. What I've been doing is bringing the findings from the Mediate project and previously the Turnkey project to bear on those discussions, and from a previous project to look at Eurocodes. So what did we do, and what is the challenge to policymakers? And Philip, this is where I'll address your first question. So in Liquefact, we developed some research output. Liquefact was about liquefaction of soils to earthquakes across Europe. We presented our outputs, all research outputs, to an international advisory board, one of whom happened to be on Eurocode 8 design committee. And he said to our Italian partners, look, this is a fantastic set of information, but it's not usable by industry. So can you turn it into design charts? Not in the project, they weren't paid for it, there was no money for it, but they did. And it's now been adopted by Eurocode 8. But that was ad hoc. That was the research project. That's what we got paid to do. It was luck. In Turnkey, we took a more proactive approach, and we said, okay, we still want research outputs, but what we're going to do is have a work package that specifically looks at turning outputs into business models. From those business models, we developed global theory, and we wrote that in a series of textbooks for our industry. And that's how we got involved in the facilities management project. And that bit was funded by the Horizon 20 programme. So that I called a planned approach. In Mediate, we took it one stage further. So we're having our research outputs, we'd still have our business models, but here we have 4 test beds, which are cascading test beds. So the test beds are research partners. And that's what we're feeding into the ISO on resilience. So that bit is now funded as part of our work. So we're funding the journey, an integrated approach. What would I like to see? I'd like to see that, where there is a recognition of that final step. Because once a project finishes, I do my ISO work through my professional body. Nobody pays me for it. And that's a problem. So what I would challenge, particularly the researchers, is get involved. Technical committees are experts. How do you get involved? You approach your national committee. You send them a CV, they review it. Normally it's accepted, providing you're not claiming things that you don't have. They then nominate you to your regional and your global committee. What do you need to do? Well, you've got to attend some meetings. Most of them are virtual now, not face-to-face. You write, you review, and you vote. So I was part of a group of 6 people that wrote the technical report on sustainable and resilient facilities management. Another one is on emergency management within the built environment. What's the benefit? Well, it enhances the relevance of the research. It talks to the practitioners. My ISO committees, the ones I'm on, are 80% practitioner. There are very, very few researchers. And this is a problem. So I'd welcome you to get involved. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Keith. So now I hope you don't just discover that standardization exists and that it's very active, and that what you're doing, if you here as research results, if you would be doing it also within standardization bodies, you would directly turn it into a standard, something that would not only remain, but be something very much structuring the market, securing your business, and building up outcomes for the very long term. So are there some questions for Professor Jones at this stage? No, not for the moment. So we keep them for the rest of the time panel. So now I will welcome our next speaker, who is Salvatore Correo. So Salvatore has an academic background in chemical engineering and a specialization in photocatalysis and photocatalytic degradation of polluants. Since 2026, he has been working as a fire officer in the Central Directorate for Emergency and Technical Issues CBRN office of the Italian National Fire Corps, the Ministry of Interior in Rome. He has gained experience in CBRN, specializing in training and doctrine, emergency planning, operational support, cooperation and liaising with national and international bodies like NATO, European Commission, DG ECHO, OPCW, and UN. From 2016 on, he works as a fire officer at Roma Fire Station, and from 2022, he's in charge of the Public Rescue and Civil Defense section. Salvatore has participated in different emergencies events like the earthquake of L'Aquila, earthquake of Emilia-Romagna, the Costa Concordia operation, and he has also participated in many national and international exercises, which makes his experience extremely valuable. And he's also involved in several EU projects, amongst them NIFTY, Heli4 Rescue, CBRN Integrated Response, Trader, and currently it's the Overcome project that just started this year. So, Salvatore, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everybody. I want also to thank the audience and the first speakers of today. I also participated to the earthquake in Turkey, Adana, last January. So, is the middle, right? So I'm here to talk about a project. It is an ongoing project. The project is called Overcome. So the story is, okay, we have to go beyond to overcome all these gaps. For sure, this consortium, we gathered three countries, Italy, France, and Belgium, specifically Italy for the fire rescue service, National Fire Corps, so the end users. Also, we have on board the Department of Rescue Service of Savoia, France, another end user, and then an associated beneficiary. It is ICI, International CBRN Institute. And from every one time at a month, we gather board of experts coming from the CBRNE family. So the project starts from end user, and the main goal is to be beneficial to the end users. So it's a win-win activity. And so the issue mainly is that we have to contribute to cooperation to get harmonized, because we have to save lives. So we have to be quick, prompt, and so we have to improve. We talk about standardization. Standardization is equal to quality. Quality in terms of to enhance the coordination, to take the right decision. All these gaps must drive the end user to take the right decision, to be coordinated, to interoperate each other in terms of avoid this kind of issue. So last February, I participated to an European certification exercise. Each team presented a different format, different paper presenting themselves. So one from Italy, one from Romania, one from Germany, and the last one from the Commission. So the story is we are in a little bit, not unique. We are a different world. We are different countries. Each one has got their own cultural awareness, cultural gaps. So from that point, we would like to get to an idea close to the INSARAG guidelines. So INSARAG guidelines, there are INSARAG advisory group, they gather together, but there is a more homogeneous form. They are rational, because quickly you know who is coming in your country, quickly you know the capabilities, quickly you know the constraints, and quickly you can get out from the country, giving a sort of handover phase, and so who is going to replace you knows where he stopped the last one, and you can keep on working on the last job he did before. So, starting from where? For sure, we should analyze the state of the art. I really thank the professor. It's not academic. It's like we have to touch the state of the art. So, it's not a story. It's something that you have to be real, in touch, in comparison to the reality of that country. We gathered this question to this 16 country. About what? What do you do in the life cycle of the incident? So during the preparedness, what are your, your state of the art? How do you respond? What do you do when the emergency stops and you start the recovery activity? And what you foresee for mitigate the activity and to get, results? So lessons learned from the response last occurred, because unfortunately we forget the emergency. We have some track, but this information rarely pass from one country, for instance, to another one. So the methodology, for sure, the need to identify these gaps. And then maybe we started with an initial approach. We needed to find a sort of index of, at the beginning we started about operational procedures, and then later on we started to gradually develop this output from the survey, and then the board of experts, gathering all the CBRN guys and girls, revised these operational procedures, getting to a version that needed, like Mr. Professor told before, to be stressed out, to be matched in a tabletop exercise that is not a tabletop dealing with the communication flow, exchange of data, but more on a functionality of this kind of future set of operational procedure. So our final goal would be, maybe from this point to, is it 25 months project, now we are close to the 9th months, is to produce this sort of procedures for CBRN, trying to get to the standardized form like the ones from the INSARAG, from where we have, again, methodology, we have software, we have the positioning, we can share data. It is an open view, INSARAG. INSARAG collects everyone. It is also useful for Turkey, also last earthquake. And then use a software that we already have at an European level. It is Prometheus. I see the colleagues knows very well. It is good data management system. It helps the digital coordination. It is accurate, is user-friendly, it is reliable. these the keywords for the next panel, for instance, and available and ready to use in your smartphone. There is Prometheus, you do the link, you give the position, you assess the situation, you send directly to a main board, and then you can helpfully this uniqueness of information without having several teams working with no information, with no direction. So, at the beginning, we started with a possible structure for operational guidelines. So, first of all, we had to understand, to identify which actors works in an emergency. And the issue is which actors works in a joint emergency, maybe affecting Italy and France. So we started from, do we have any documents that state information about coordination, management? Yes, we have bilateral agreement. But bilateral agreement is like the academic state of the art. It's political. It's nothing very practical. So countries, maybe someone kills me. Countries, unfortunately, they do political agreement, but the next step would be to stem from, to analyze the future. The second step is to produce the operational agreement, the operational, I don't say standard, but operational guidelines. So the structure was, who are the actors from Italy and France? This promise happens also in one single country, not only in bilateral and two countries. Then, which equipment and tools can be shared? So the story of the interoperability, and professor told about ISO, also compatibility. I saw Eurocode number 8. I'm a fire officer. I work with fire prevention. I understand the fire resistance. So for me, it's a good job, the standardization, in terms of using them and for the fire prevention, for instance. Then we go to the operational phase. So when we enter in this column, in this area, preparedness, response, recovery, mitigation, lessons learned, there is a lot of cultural issues. Maybe Italy is different from France and Belgium. Italy has a different history because there is a specific topography. In Italy we have floods, we have earthquake. Now we are facing a lot of floods due to the climate change. So, and then from this column, section 3, for instance, we can start to identify a sort of CBRN form. So it was nice during the discussion of one BOE, Board of Experts, to go directly, because each country has got the capabilities, has got the political, the practical activity. They do very well in their own country. The story is we have to arrange operating guidelines to improve the story about coordination that is more on the operational side, and cooperation that is between the tactical and strategical area. So the new structure, so I put only the phase of before, because we have to distinguish before, in the middle, at the end of the emergency. So topics to consider, and we started like a brainstorming, okay, which are the topics to consider, and what will be the CBRN guidelines and form. So the time is okay? Okay, stop. Okay, so I really appreciate after this moment to talk during the coffee break and share information, if you agree with my ideas, because it's important. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Salvatore. That was, a very interesting process you have within your project that is just beginning, but it's a very, very interesting way of getting to know what you should be doing. What do we have? Who works on this? Where are they? How can we address our business needs. How can we deliver something that is usable for everybody? This is exactly what we do in standardization. So I would again urge the Mediate project to join as soon as possible working group 2 of ISO C292, which is high-risk hazards and CBRNE, and it's dealing with developing standards on preparedness and response to support the policymakers and the practitioners on the ground. We already have some guideline standards. You don't have either guidelines, harmonization, or standards. You have standards that tell you how to do emergency management or crisis management, or like Keith is actually developing within ISO C292 Working Group 5, you know, those standards on how to deal with recovery or managing vulnerable people within an emergency. And this is already being developed, and you know, all the tremendous high-rank expertise that you find in some, not all of them, European projects as policymakers and practitioners, people who are actually involved in your business. Well, you can just join them within a working group and then benefit from their tremendous expertise and move on finding out the solution that works for everyone and that will be enforced. And you won't have to disseminate because you would have standardized what you're already doing. But the value of it is that you will have a document, a methodology that works for everyone, and that makes it interoperable. And then after that, you can, you know, develop more and more and more different bricks that will allow you to go much, much further and build a very, very strong resilience. See, it's like, you know, when you want to go far away, it takes time to build tracks, but you cannot have trains if you don't build tracks. So this is what we're trying to achieve. So thank you very much, Salvatore. I give the floor now to Tom Flynn, our last panelist for this first panel. Well, I guess you are, we do know Tom. He's the Innovation Business Development Manager of TFC Research and Innovation Limited in Ireland, and headed up the Better Practice Initiative, as well as the standardization activities in the No Fear project, and is now quite active in the Peers project, bringing fresh thinking approaches to standardization. He is also an active member of CERIS 391 and the CEN Security Sector Forum representative for Ireland, and has a vast experience working both multinational organizations and SMEs across a number of domains, including operational security, energy, efficiency, e-health, in the area of concept initiation, project management, and standardization. Tom runs the Cancer Survivorship All for Wellbeing Cluster in e-health and has worked directly for the European Commission in many capacities, including proposal evaluations and project progress assessment. Tom has chaired a number of profile events, including the 5th European Software Quality Conference and the European Security Research, the Next Wave Conference. Thank you, Tom. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Trish. Thank you, everybody. That was a kind of good speech. I'm going to try to talk to you today a little bit about the Peers project we're working in, but I'm really keen to get to the round table, so I want to talk because I like to engage with people, and I think there we can do it, and particularly try to answer some of the questions that Philippe was talking about. So I'm going to go through this quickly because Bertrice keeps on talking. So this is the Peers project. A bit of background. It was driven by the need of getting closer to the customers, the users who matter. Yes, it's all to do with SaaS resilience and also to do with CBRNE. But the principle behind where we're working from is that we don't want to give you something that we believe you need. We want to give you something that you need, and therefore the co-creation group is part of it. One of the things we found coming into this project was a project called Encircle. And Encircle challenged what was happening there is standardization. Okay, I hope it's okay. I'm going to take it down just a little bit. And what happened was that they did a survey and they said, you know, people in the field actually don't like standards. 20% was the figure that they said. So it was actually, standards were seen badly by the community that were trying to help. And that was the starting point of it. The second thing we did is that we did a project called Stress Security. And in there, Patricia actually worked with that. It became very obvious that we proof of concept. We were able to kind of engage with the community that matters. And who are the community that matters? It's very much so the practitioners and also the policymakers, because they are forefront that matter when it comes to standardization. Ironically, not the standardization body, they're secondary. But when we think of standards, we naturally think of standardization bodies. No, so we're actually challenging that there along the way. So we got peers, and peers is very much so about gathering, how I could call it you, the people that matter. What we're trying to do is very much to strengthen how they work, how they operate, using standardization, but other things. And we know that through the co-creation group, by talking to people, we ran over about 24 sessions with people, practitioners and policymakers, and they gave us information that was pretty prevalent to what we're trying to achieve. And they talked about training, they talked about the needs that they have, they talked about use cases be very helpful for us. So we're getting information from the community that matters towards us. So yes, standardization is to the foreground, but without question, solving and giving people in a way that works for them, it's what matters. So when I say standard on their own, no, it's actually an all-in-one kind of embracing system. We're trying to give the community what they need. And I call it almost at this stage an all-in-one type of solution. And it's kind of moved on a little bit. So we've got this very much so a mechanism of co-creation, and that's going to be very, very important going forward as we move forward with the project to the very end. And here we go. So peers is heavily focused on preparedness and response, particularly with the CBRNE space, which was Philippe was talking about earlier on. Let's focus on an area rather than try and take on the big fish. And here's to give you an example. I want to show you a driver. I want you to take a look at it. It was written very carefully. For the first time, we're not talking about standards in terms of compliance. We're talking about standards in terms of cost savings when it comes to doing things like operationals. You know, when it comes to all the areas of project effectiveness, interoperability, very, very important. So suddenly we see standard in a new light. We're seeing this like cost savings. It can help us do things. So I'll give you an example. To the right there, you see a thing called a knowledge dashboard. And in the knowledge dashboard is part of the solution that we're giving, designed for practitioners. So we're going to go in there and get your profile, understand your background. And on that basis, what we're going to do is then say, take your profile and give you the knowledge that you need. The knowledge when it comes to standardization at SEN level, at ISO level, at national level, but also training and where the standards body is based. And also if I'm at policy making, how do I use the knowledge base? So the knowledge dash base is designed very much so based on your profile. But if you're a doctor and you're there and you see what's needed, you know, what is the standard I got to use, it'll be there for you. Well, okay, I got a situation which is cross-border, so you can filter through from the cross-border situation and then understand what your fellow country is doing. So suddenly you're going to get knowledge working in a way that works for you. So that's the principle that we're going from. We're not just talking standards. We're talking about giving you information that you need when you need it. And that's critical. So the policymakers need to know, we have to put something for the future. Very important. Yes, this solution will give you information that you need so you can make the right decisions. But the first responders need to know. Now I'm having the situation, help me. So it's working for you now. And the researchers, well, yes, we need to develop more and improve certain areas. So it's designed for them as well. So this I call like an all-in-one embracing system. It is there to work for you, to help Philippe at the level that he spoke about, but likewise the practitioners when they have that situation. And then we have what we call the research community who want to improve to the next stage. So this is different, it's radically different. And I barely mentioned the word standardization. So here we are. How will we make it work? Sorry, maybe I thought it looked this way. We have got what I call a capability building mechanism in place. Capability building, very, very important. We're applying, very importantly, a co-creation approach. As I said earlier on, we're listening, learning, observing, acting based on what you're telling us, not what we think you need. So it's radically different. So straight away, we had about 24 sessions working with Europol, working with CEPOL, working with the Portuguese Army, working very much so with our research community. We've had quite a lot of sessions engaging with the people who matter, and we're going to policy making as well. We developed what we call the ecosystem working, and we're going to produce three prototypes. So we've done our first alpha version, and on the 29th of the night, we presented through great work that Bertries did on the project to the audience. And we had 3 sessions, one to do with policymakers, one to do with practitioners, and one to do with standardization body. And they all saw from a different point of view, and we presented it. So to give you an example how it might work, if I want to develop a standard operating procedure, why start from ground zero? If I get into the system, I can see what's already out there, and maybe bring in down an example that's working for me, that I could start from. That would save me time, effort, and money, because I already know part of it. If I'm starting a new project, I can find out what stakeholders are relevant that we need to look to, talk to. I can find out from the system what products and services are out there, and I can find out what standards are out there. So it's working for you. So the standards is the entity, but it's working on mechanisms that are going to be very helpful for you, and that's very important to it. We also include virtual reality, because at the preparedness stage, the more training you have, the better for it. So we have 2 types of virtual reality. You can do your avatars within the platform itself, but likewise, if you want to go outside, we have the equipment. You can do more as well. With Sultan, who's in the audience as well, is driving very much so as well. We have an e-learning support, and importantly, and this is something that didn't come out at the earlier conversation with Philippe, there's a new mechanism on the horizon. It's called the Better Practice Guide Initiative. And what it is doing, there's a little slide after it, is saying, oh, hold on a second, do we necessarily need standardization body? Things move quickly, and their process is slow in terms of standardization. So let's have another mechanism that allows us to speed up the process in a way that works for us. And the ownership is driven by the practitioners. They own it, so they empower it. So it's a brand new thing, and it will sit beside standardization. And if they want to move it over, absolutely, no problems whatsoever. But you don't need CWAs. You do it separately. Do I have to move? Okay, I got to move. I'm going too slowly. Okay. Okay, so this is the QR. I'm encouraging you all, please, to take a picture. Join us on the co-creation group. In there, we're going to show you very much so how this platform works. But just register it, get your QR. I'm going to leave the screen there a second, and then I'll move on. Please take it. Come join us. Because when we're working forward, we're not working without the people that matter towards us. And there's a lot of stuff there, but the QR is important. So please come join us on the co-creation group. I move forward, and we're going to show you very quickly, 2 minutes, please. As you can see, we have the register on the co-creation group first, and then you get access to the platform. And we're doing a number of things going forward. We're going to hold a number of Media Minds events. In other words, we're going to have these webinars where we're going to listen to you. The better practice is up and going, and we're going to be having API connectivity going as well. So we're going to link into other systems to make sure this is an all-embracing system. And to the right-hand side, you can see a number of the bodies that we're working with, which is good. And David Crouch, who works with the company, TFC, he's going to be trying to bring in people not involving European projects to move forward. That's the demonstration group which John is driving. This is the Better Practice Guide, and I'm going to stay 2 minutes. I'm going to say the Better Practice Guide is that, okay, I got to run. It's been based on, in practice, but not necessarily obtained by law. So that's just the principle where we're going for. I really have to rush. I'm getting these dirty looks all the time. It's been applied in a few places. Interoperability in different areas, not just in our area, but also in areas like cancer and emergency efficiency. It's moving, and this is where I think it's important. And this is the webinar we're going to hold on Friday. It's very important. It will give you chances to go and actually see the platform. You'll be able to kind of join the group, and this is here this Friday. So if you have the opportunity to come to it, please do so. And there are some presentations around on the outside, so you can just take them up as well. I'm getting dirty looks. I better go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I must say that the Better Practice Guide is a method that works, that produced standardization that did in other areas in security. and one standard is already on tracks now in my TC based on the No Fair Project Better Practice Guide use. So, well, thank you for this. Well, are there some questions? Yes? Maybe you need a mic. Yes, thank you.
Horst Kremers, Berlin, Germany. I'm especially happy, Dumflin, that you mentioned the e-health activities. Nevertheless, I would have been even more happy if you would have told all the other people that e-health is not a project, it's a directive. And that makes all the difference. And a typical directive has its own mechanism to do the work and to see that what is demanded in the directive really is implemented in all the states. So that is just, I wanted to add, you will agree probably to that, but it's a different way of getting things done that are absolutely complex, and they have to be implemented by directive. We come later maybe to the general aspects of that for disaster research and development.
Thank you, May I answer? May I answer that question? I'm sorry the presentation was slightly rushed. Well, you're absolutely correct in what you're doing, but what we're not doing is doing what you're saying. What we're doing very much is developing can I call it a better practice guide based on the needs for those who deal with cancer research on the survivorship. So we're bringing artificial intelligence in there in this specific area, and we're developing what we call a guide. So as future projects go forward, I think the connectivity will be there. It's that level. It's like a standardization level, but we're not talking directives here. I'm sorry, I've misunderstood what you were saying.
Do you have other questions? Hands, yes. Zoltan?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Ivona, yes.
Thank you for the introduction. And I coordinated many years ago a project dealing with the development resilience management guidelines. And they were 5 European projects, and there are a lot of good results there. So my concrete question, I'm very happy to hear about the good practice guide, because at that time, do want to do CVAs, and we were involved in the discussion 292. So in terms of sustainability, those results, and it's a responsibility for us as researchers that results can be used. Not everything is ready to use out of the shelf, but there is some knowledge there. So my question is it possible for projects that have ended to contact this good practice, and some of results can be shared there that can be further exploited in terms of sustainability and so on? So just a question.
The better practice guide is everyone to be taken, and we can, you don't have to ask permission. It's there. You can take it and use it. But of course, you would need some information and guidance on what it is. And of course, we can provide you with that. What I would urge you is not to wait until the end of your project to initiate a better pre-standardization activities based on the better practice guide. The sooner you do that, the best. The earlier you get engaged within the life of your project, what you are doing there. If you are doing it in parallel with a working group within a technical committee, you end up not with a piece of paper, you end up with an actual standard. And this is quite an achievement. And better practice guide is very pragmatical, very, very business needs based. It has found out the principles that are the same as the ones we use for standardization purposes. Why? Because it simply makes sense. So anybody can use them at any stage, but I would urge you to do this the sooner, the best. I'm sorry, but we don't have enough time for maybe a very short one, Zoltan, or no? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your attendance and participation. And so we will move to the next panel. Thank you.
Okay, it was quite challenging, I would say, but thank you to Patricia for moderating this session, and also to our panelists for joining the discussion. Now it is time for the second panel. interoperability training and full-scale exercises. So I am pleased to invite Tom to moderate this session, but Tom, please be careful with time, and all the other panelists to join. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm getting people telling me to be not so long and try to speak less, which I'm taking board. So we're going to go to the second panel. And this is interoperability training and full-scale exercise. Very briefly, in 2015, I gave a talk here at the very building on interoperability, which were 5 layers. And I'm not going to go to the details of you either know it or not. So we're going to try to, I better move this quickly. I'm going to introduce you to the panel now. So if we can go to the, so we have, at the panel, we've got Christian, we've got Sheila, we've got Hendrik, and we've got Kim. So these are the people who are going to be talking to you all. They will each give a presentation. And what I think we'd probably do is that we go straight to the round table and straight after that, and not have questions after your sessions, because I think time is a problem. And we're going to do that. So, and first of all, I'm going to show you the plan. And I'm going to introduce Christian. Do you want to just say a few words about who you are and your background?
I think I have been introduced yesterday already, and I think we can skip that. Today I'm just speaking not from an academic perspective, so I'm wearing a different hat, which is actually a helmet. So I'm will be introducing Formatex, which is a full-scale exercise where I was responsible for the planning and conduct of this exercise.
Sheila?
Hi, everyone. Very pleased to be here today. I have to say that I'm very new to this. My experience has been for very long at the UN, so my experience and expertise are quite different. I take a world perspective now into the European perspective, which has taken me some time. As I said, I graduated in science diplomacy, and I have a master's degree in human rights. And after some years in humanitarian assistance, I moved to the spokesperson's office of the UN Secretary General, providing assistance to both Mr. Ban Ki-moon and Antonio Guterres, still holding completing his term. Recently, I moved back to Italy, where I moved and worked with the UNESCO. And I'm currently working with the Central European Initiative and getting familiar with the European projects, which is what I'm going to tell you about today.
Thank you, Sheila. Hendrik.
Yeah, hello. My name is Hendrik Bruns. I'm working as a research assistant at the University of the Bundeswehr, so the German Armed Forces in Munich. And with our professorship, we are working or are specialized on emergency organizations, and in the last years did some projects on exercise evaluation in particular. And one of the projects I'm presenting today as well is the ENECMA project, which was funded in the scope of the UC PKN, so the knowledge network, and was also linked to the Formatex exercise, but we will come to that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Hendrik. Last but not least, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim. I work with the local police in Ghent. I'm a real security practitioner. One of my projects concerns art crime, the prevention of art crime. So I really work on preventing things. In the art crime area, we have a lot of insider theft or insider threat issues. And that's how I became known while I was on a conference, and they picked me up at the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency. And now I am a trainer with them. So I give trainings in national and international settings on insider threat mitigation, especially against the theft of nuclear material and sabotage in nuclear facilities.
Thank you, Kim. As you can see, we've got various people with different backgrounds going to do. So what we're going to do now in the afternoon is actually show a little bit of the work for, I bet, 5 minutes, I think, starting with Christian and go through all the panels. And once that is done, I'll try to get the round table. I think the round table is probably going to be more interesting in the sense that we give us all a chance to talk. So we're going to go for about a 5-minute session, and we'll have the pleasure of introducing the floor to Hendrik.
Thank you, Tom. We begin, yes. If we can move to the next slide, that would be nice to have the Formatex project. Yes. So in my just short talk, I want to actually unlock the potential that is within full-scale exercise projects. So first of all, I want to really ask, and please don't be shy here in the room, who doesn't know about the civil protection mechanism? Who has never heard about that? Is there someone in the room? Then please hands up. So there is still someone. Just in a nutshell, it's actually the joint efforts of all EU member states plus 10 participating states, yeah, in the areas of prevention, preparedness, and response to disasters. So DG ECHO, who is responsible in that terms, is funding capacity and capability building projects in that area. So it means these are projects that create evidence base for these interoperability efforts, but also projects that aim at developing capacities, but also projects that aim at enhancing interoperability between capabilities and, of course, capability building. And Formatex was such a project, which is called a full-scale exercise project. So it's simply also project design, and it's much more than just the delivery of a full-scale exercise. So I always tend to say it's several building blocks that we have to come in the end to a final deliverable, which is then several days field exercise with bunch of responders from different areas and units and countries to respond to one specific incident. And to get to that exercise, there are certain side events. So if we can move to the next slide, or I take the clicker. Yeah. So Formatex took place in Austria, and it was addressing a very specific niche in response to natural hazards. Yeah. So it was addressing the specific risk on NATEX, so natural hazards that are triggering and technological incidents. So it's very CBRN specific. So it's not a typical flood response exercise. Yeah. So there are exercises like that as well, where, I don't know, flood response teams have the opportunity to train and enhance their own capability. This exercise was actually just simulating that there is already a huge flood response ongoing and for a specific need. So when the flood hits actually industrial ground, it causes a huge impact to the nature, but also to the industrial facilities and, of course, to the population that was affected. And it needed specific capabilities. And so we had, within that exercise, high-capacity pumping modules that had to be that had to work under CBRN conditions, which they are not traditionally planned for. Yeah. The same was for different CBRN modules. Yeah. They came from France, from Germany, environmental assessment unit from the Netherlands, from Romania. So certain countries were participating in this exercise, and during this 2 years project there were several activities, and that's I will then conclude with a short 2-minute video to make you visualize actually what is the potential of such a project. Just before that, so what are these building blocks that I was talking about? So there were a bunch of side events happening. So we had a whole week a CBRN technologies workshop that took place also at the University of the Bundeswehr in Munich, where we invited all over Europe first responders in the CBRN domain, but also technology developers. So they were actually discussing what is state-of-the-art commercials off the shelf that they could test and use and discuss, exchange actually experiences from the field, and developers could respond to that and vice versa. Another side event that happened or workshop was on environmental analytics. We identified that the CBRN team is not a CBRN team. Yeah? So those of us that work in that field are quite aware of what I'm saying. So it needs also a harmonization or at least minimum standards in terms of capabilities such as analytical capability, decontamination and so on in order to be interoperable. So standardization again to some certain point. Yes, all these events actually led to a nice planning base to deliver in the end, and that happened in September this year, such a full-scale exercise, which I will conclude now with my short input with a 2-minute video.
Here in this port, we face a situation where a gas tank is leaking on a boat. We are here to stop every danger, to stop the leak, and to ensure that population is safe. So for now, there is no risk for immediate population because the leak is totally under control.
So it's a joint mission. The Fire Brigade of Linz, the Austrian Armed Forces and the German ATF are working here together. The plan is that Austrian Forces and the Fire Brigade are on the water and taking some samples and doing a detection. And afterwards we are going to ship those containers into our device here and do a decontamination.
All the time it's good to work together with other teams to cooperate and to do things together, yeah? And we help each other. All the time we learn something, but the most important thing is to work together and to do things in common.
So full-scale exercises are, in my point of view, the closest that we can come to real missions, and I would be happy to discuss later on the opportunities and also limitations that we have within this project.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. Would you like to come up here? It may be better for you? Okay, all right.
It's a quick word about the organization that I represent, which is the Central European Initiative, a regional intergovernmental forum that brings together 17 countries working towards European integration and development through regional cooperation and the European project, which is what we're tackling today. How does CHE contribute to standardization? I'm glad I'm coming after your presentation, Christian, because these are really case studies about exercises and that manage and aim at developing standard operating procedures. So if I understand correctly, it may be one step forward, the Formatex. There are two specific cases that I would like to mention. One was the NAMIRG project, which ended in 2019, brought together the civil protection and fire brigades of 3 countries in the region, specifically Friuli Venezia Giulia, Croatia, and Slovenia, which share the North Adriatic Basin. So the idea was to create standard operating procedures to face and intervene for fires at sea. Now, as we know, fires at sea are quite rare, fortunately. However, they're extremely deadly. So having some standard procedure on how to intervene in such cases was extremely important. And if you move on, this is just a quick slide to show how we did it. And we did it, as you said, through a lot of training, a lot of common training, over 144 hours of training, and creating transnational teams. If I may say, this is very specific to both of these projects, and was extremely important because the area we share is very narrow, is 550 kilometers square of sea. The North Adriatic Basin is an extremely powerful resource and important resource both from the ecological point of view, but also from the economic point of view. And Slovenia this is the only access for Slovenia specifically to the sea. So also, and I don't know if this was also your case, but maybe for a question later, with the project we managed to purchase equipment and devices that otherwise would have been very costly for each country to sustain. And this is something that is very important, and capitalizing on this, we managed to, we are successfully now implementing NAMIRS, which is the North Adriatic Maritime Intervention Response System, which capitalizes on the lessons learned of NAMIRG and looks at intervention responses for accidents at sea in case of oil spills. If you move, please, so we are still, this project is still ongoing. We recently completed the full exercise at sea, which was very successful. I will leave maybe for a question later about the exercise itself, because it did test the standard operating procedure, and it may be a way to look at how to create standards, if it's better before or after full exercises.
We now go to Henrik. Henrik? Is correct?
No. I have the ENECMA project, actually.
So, bit of a...
Yeah, there it is. So the topic I want to talk about and the project in special is the topic of exercise evaluation. So when you see the pictures from the Formatex exercise, you can guess that it needs a lot of time and effort to plan and conduct such an exercise. And in the end, then also a lot of money, like for full-scale exercises, the European Union and DG ECHO is conducting and funding these exercises. And to get the most of this time and effort that has been spent on creating such an exercise, the process of learning shouldn't stop right at the second when the exercise ends, so on the last day of the exercise. But should have a phase of evaluation from everything that has been done before in the planning phase, but also in the conducting phase. And the ENECMA project was actually concerned with exactly that, so with the evaluation of civil protection exercises. And it was built on 3 pillars. And the first one was the development of an evaluation methodology that matches the different kinds of exercise that there are, so you don't have to think just of full-scale exercise, but there are also command post exercises, tabletop exercises, which have different objectives and also different needs in the evaluation. So to look at the different methods that there are to evaluate these kind of exercises. And the second thing was to look at the tools which support these methods. So if you want to survey the participants, ask for their feedback, there are several tools that can help you to do that. So to look at the market, look at the different tools that there are to support you in doing so, and also look at the gaps that there are currently. And the third pillar was to establish or to start to create a network of evaluators to train them on the tools and methods that have been developed before, and also start to establish a network that lasts longer than the actual project. So for future exercises, a network that can be contacted with people who were already involved in evaluating full-scale exercises and can do that also on other occasions. So on the next slide, I have some impressions from the project. And the first thing we did with all these 3 pillars was the actual project work, the research we had. So the actual work within the project. But we tried to get as soon as we could in contact with practitioners. So in the second picture, you can see Christian presenting the ENEGMA project on a full-scale exercise in France at the domino exercise, or below at the balance exercises. So we tried to get the feedback as soon as we could from the practitioners to actually avoid something like that has been addressed several times now, that creates something out of the blue that no one uses afterwards. And that's why also the implementation was an important aspect of the ENEGMA project. And there's the link to the Formatex exercise, because with the Formatex exercise, we were able to establish the evaluation methodology for the first time in the context of an exercise, but not just the exercise itself, the 3 days, but the whole project duration. So all the dissemination activities, all the planning conferences were evaluated and contribute to the outcome of the Formatex project as a whole. And now we are in the phase of continuation. So the ENEGMA project is ended in June. But with all the experience and output we gained from the ENEGMA project and also the implementation in the Formatex exercise, we now want, with the support of DG ECHO, create like a technical guideline to make everything what we learned and worked out in this context, make them available also for future exercise projects. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving, because time is important here, I'm going to try to move on a little bit. I thank you very much all for that. But our last speaker at this stage is Kim. And Kim, give our president. Would you like to do this? We'll go there.
No, or give me the clicker, okay. Maybe. Thank you. This is not mine. Or if somebody can put the one up. Somebody has to give me my presentation. Hi. I'll start already, because museums are a niche area for security, but nowadays very interesting, because museums are being attacked. Art is being attacked. Recently, museums have to close their gates, their doors, because people are trying to storm museums. Museums have insider threats. So this is for us a very interesting area to start looking and move the information and the practices and the exercises to other areas. My presentation is still not on. I can also do it without my presentation. It doesn't really matter. It's more like a feeling.
You're very good.
Yeah, I'll just continue, because so museums is part of something that I bring to the platform, but also law enforcement. Law enforcement already has a lot of full-scale exercises with other emergency services, medical services. And then I can go to the nuclear facilities. And when I'm in a nuclear facility, they're very interested in the other insights that I bring from law enforcement, from museums, from cultural heritage sites. So when we talk about a specific issue, whether it's going to be theft, but especially sabotage, they are interested in what can we learn from other sectors. And when I teach, when you have to stop an insider has access, authority, and knowledge over systems, areas, facilities that outsiders do not have, then you really have to dig in creatively and start looking for scenarios. And scenarios, it's a way of working that's very limited. And then the more input you have from people who think differently, who think like an enemy, who think like somebody with different motivations, the better your protection will be. So they are very interested in all these different types of input to come to the scenarios and then to come to preventive and protective measures. Because the goal is to avoid the disaster and not mitigate the disaster. So how do we avoid the disaster? And I'll keep it at that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all very much for your presentations. They've been very informative and appreciate it. I'm going to actually open the questions for the audience. You've got 4 presentations there, 3 of which you've seen. One was done by improvisation, which is brilliantly done. Is there any questions to the presenters at this stage and any of the project work at this stage? Do we have some questions? So we take the first one, beat you slightly. Sultan, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Very simple question. During those exercises, how many and which Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe developed technologies were tested? Because within the Horizon project, when we finance an exercise, the importance is to test those new systems to see how they validate in a real case scenario among other systems. Interoperability, usability, everything. That would be a great insight for me. Thank you in advance.
I think first of all, it's important to be aware that that full-scale exercise projects funded by DG ECHO do not intend by nature to be a test bed, but in order to be such, it is actually good to have someone in the consortia or in those that are running the project that are able to look a bit on the left and on the right side to see what's out there in order to connect the dots. And ideally that should happen in the phase of a consortium setup, yeah, to see then where to build synergies. And in order to be aware of what is left and right, I think it's amazing that thanks to Philippe, yeah, a forum such as CERIS allows to look at the horizontal level of activities, so where also not only research projects, but also what other types of projects could be relevant, therefore. And then it just depends what, let's say, certain items you can include into such a full-scale exercise. So we tested actually drone stuff, yeah, CBRN specifics in all matters, I would even say. So then it's really up to what is possible and feasible, as well as the standardization on exercise evaluation, which was actually at the core of this.
Okay, we got a lot of questions coming in from a lot of people. Orsi, fit. So the lady at the very corner there was next, and I'll take you after that straight after. So Orsi, you're number 5 in line. I have you number 4. Okay, so we're coming in. I'm getting there as best I possibly can.
Thank you. My question is for Christian and Hendrix. Just want to know, implementing these 2 projects, what was the biggest challenge for you? And also how you see the link between, as you say, 2 projects, 2 different projects?
So one aspect is certainly evaluation in general. So to have someone involved in an exercise project who is perceived as the one looking for mistakes, what is running good, what is running bad. So to create kind of failure culture also already from the beginning on. And I think what we achieved was that as we established or already talked about evaluation already in the planning phase from Formantext, that everyone was really open to contribute their feedback, give their opinion on different things, and that in the end we got a good result on the evaluation and a sound basis for the final evaluation report.
We're running out of time, I'm told, so I'm going to continue on. I'm going to bring this gentleman here at the corner. We'll probably take 2 more questions max, because there's a time limit here at the stage. And I want to suggest anybody, there'll be more questions, I know that. But join us outside after this, and we can discuss it together, okay?
I just want to one sentence to respond to the question also from my side. As I had a project overview, we didn't actually have a real big challenge, yeah, because we had great support from the Commission, we had a great team, so it also comes down to who is within the team. But what I see as a big challenge that is to come is actually to create sustainability and to make sure that the lessons that we identified are somehow learned and open to everyone who wants to continue in that field. That's what I see is still a big challenge. And
we go to the 3rd question here. Go ahead, please.
Real exercises on NatTech in cooperation between several European emergency units is really great. In the case you showed, it's more an external to the planned accident. Have you ever thought in a more realistic exercise in real plants as a chemistry or others, although not in a critical or process or installation. For instance, using digital twins or the monitoring systems in the plant and integrating those to the emergency information systems, to the SCADA and the safety systems, for instance, to the plant. I believe that's the big real challenge for us. It's the cooperation between public and private teams, the integrating of the different information systems, both in the plant, the environmental systems, for instance, and the emergency systems, and defining common protocols to act.
Thank you for that. If I may respond just in a short manner, if you want to include all those aspects, I think you have to start already with the planning much before the call is open, yeah, because the time that you need then for the application is much too short in order to have in industry, so real industrial fields and sites involved to have to use, for example, if we wanted to use also augmented reality to simulate certain toxic releases and whatnot, so we actually then just pulled it down to the tabletop exercise where we were using VR for simulation, but there is a huge potential there. The important thing is to be aware that it cannot be all happening just during, let's say, 2.5 months of project application. So if you really want to do that, be already much ahead, aware of who you want to involve and which projects are interesting or relevant to link up with.
Okay. I think we just have one more question. This gentleman over here had a question right beside you. Thank you for that. And then I think we have to go through a break. So.
Thank you. Janos Pálhalmi from Hungary. Just one quick question that probably to INEGMA project, you mentioned you worked out evaluation methodologies for exercises. And are these methodologies quantitative or qualitative rather regarding the metrics you are applying?
Right now it was more qualitative aspect. So yeah, gather the feedback of the participants, not to measure any things in that term, although we had in Formatex now a specific aspect for round-robin tests, so to compare the different labs that were involved, but this was a special case for Formatex, so in INEGMA it was more on qualitative side.
Okay, so I think we should conclude at this stage. I want to thank you all very much for your questions. I know there are more questions, so please, at the coffee break, by all means, engage with us and we'll talk to you. So just a big round of applause for Christian, Kim, Sheila and Hendrik. Thank you very, very much for your informed knowledge. And we'll see you after the break. Thank you. Bye. What time? 11? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Beatrice.